Good morning, Tampa Bay. Happy Friday. It's cold down here in Florida, man. It's cold. It's cold everywhere. It's cold everywhere right now. I mean, we're not going to complain about the cold weather, are we? But man, Buffalo's got to move. Buffalo's playing in Detroit. I think the Detroit Lions may have. I think they may have won Twitter yesterday with their comment telling the Buffalo Bills to clean up, lock the door, and don't break any tables, guys. Just please don't break any tables. Thank you everybody who's tuned in this morning. Please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Helps propel us to the homepage of YouTube. That just tells people that, hey, we're interested. Maybe you're interested as well. And, let Tampa sports fans all kind of connect. Speaking of connecting, we've opened up our Tampa sports fans Twitter community. All companies, all journalists, all sports fans, casuals, diehards, doesn't matter. Everybody is invited. Kind of filter out the nonsense, and we will keep it sports oriented for all things that we at Channelside Sports cover. Of course, like I said, it doesn't matter what doesn't matter what your outlet is. Everybody's free to join. Everybody's free to promote their work. We're not haters. Why would we're not going to hate on people, but there's so much nonsense going on with Twitter right now, and maybe you're tired of it. Maybe you're sick of, just people. I don't know. Bad takes are going to happen regardless. So you can't be upset and you can't be afraid of a bad sports take, but we need to talk about and look at, keep things on topic. Right? I don't go to Twitter. I've got certain words blocked. I've got Biden blocked. I've got Trump blocked. I don't go to Twitter for that. Twitter's my outlet to connect with you, is to connect with other sports fans, is to just talk sports. That's my outlet. I don't want to go to Twitter for anything else. I don't want to hear about anything political. I don't want to hear about Elon Musk and the problems with Twitter, which may render this entire conversation null and void in the very near future if Twitter kind of craps the bed and falls apart. But that's why we've created it. It's called Tampa Sports Fans. Look it up on Twitter. It's posted on the Channelside Sports Twitter. It's posted on my personal one. Follow me at Real Danny B. And yeah, let's just connect, filter through all the nonsense. It is a private community, so we can control who's joining. So, we'll keep the bots out. We'll keep all that stupid nonsense out. Everybody's got a take. Everybody who's a fan has a voice. Make your voice heard. Slide on over. We've got a decent little show lined up for you today. Obviously, the Bucs are on a bye week. They just got their W in Munich last week. And they opted, obviously, because it was late in the season, to not move their bye week or have a game after their bye week, which I always think is kind of a weird dynamic anyway. But nonetheless, the Buccaneers are on a bye. That does not mean that they just have the full week off. Yesterday we went through our pick'ems. But today I'm going to talk about some implications, because there are playoff implications for the Buccaneers in terms of seeding. In terms of if for whatever reason they don't happen to win the NFC South, if something happens and they don't happen to win it, the NFC South right now, at least between the Falcons and the Buccaneers, is close. The Falcons possibly could get a W over Chicago on Sunday. That will tighten it up a little bit. Yeah, we know that the Bucs beat them by 6 points just a couple of weeks ago, but the problem with that is they play them once again. Maybe the Buccaneers have it all figured out by the end of the season. But I think they play them in the last week. It's either the Falcons or the Panthers. They play in their 17th game. But they have the possibility of continuing to kind of limp along. I think they figured it out. I think they will figure it out going forward. But that doesn't mean that that's not an important game for the Buccaneers. That to me says that, hey, we still need to focus, because we've seen these divisional matchups all season long, no matter who it is, kind of just go haywire. Who thought the Packers would lose to the Lions as bad as the Packers are? Who thought that would happen? Who thought that the Jets were going to upset the Buffalo Bills? Who thought the Carolina Panthers were going to upset us? So it's divisional games are always tough. Just because the Buccaneers are off this week, all that means is that they're just not playing football. But if you look at some of these matchups, Dallas, Minnesota, huge matchup. Detroit and the Giants. You might not think it's a huge matchup on paper because the Lions are 3-6, but this is a huge matchup. The Giants are currently they're currently second in the NFC East. This has huge playoff implications. You should be pulling super hard for the Detroit Lions on Sunday to beat the Giants. This only helps the Bucs. We should be cheering super hard for the Minnesota Vikings, they're 100% they're running away with the NFC North. The division is theirs already, right? So cheer for the Vikings to win against any NFC team the rest of the season. We're going to get into those games that have playoff implications. Obviously, I've got my picks from yesterday. I still have them circled, but I'm going to kind of dissect and discuss which games actually affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward. As we're in this latter half of the season, these games are starting to matter even when they don't actually feature the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's never too early to look at playoff implications, right? We're heading into week 11 out of 18 weeks. It's not too late to start talking about that because a lot of things can happen. The Bucs could win out for all we know. Right? The Buccaneers could come back and they could not lose a game for the remainder of the season. They could finish the season 12-5. For all we know, that's what could happen. Then a lot of this stuff doesn't matter, but that's the beauty of talking sports. Is we cover all the facets. We cover all avenues. And we have a damn good time doing it. The Bolts are winners of 3 straight. They got a 4-1 win over the Calgary Flames last night. And then the Orlando Magic, losers of 2 straight, unfortunately, are on the road against the Chicago Bulls, who are on a losing streak of their own at 3. We will talk all about those, but before we get into that, we're going to hear from our friends over at BetUS.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Hey guys, it's Danny for BetUS. Head on over to BetUS.com, the most trusted source in sports wagering for nearly 3 decades now. Warren Sapp, Gary Payton, all ambassadors for the brand. If you like any of the slate, I'm going to rehash some of the matchups for Sunday. If any of these sound enticing to you, head over to BetUS.com. Use the promo code Channelside. They're going to hook you up with 125% deposit bonus. There's no cap on that bonus either. That's pretty damn remarkable if you ask me. We've got odds for everybody. There's also a fun little wager, a prop bet, which I'll bring up here in just a moment. Head over to BetUS.com. Tell them Channelside Sports sent you. So last night, Thursday Night Football, Green Bay Packers falter again. They fall to 5-6 on the season. I'm sorry, 4-7 on the season. Who would have thought that the Packers would be 4-7? Oh, I did. Derrick Henry gets 2 tutties. Titans cruise 27-17. Christian Watson another 2 touchdowns. He got 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games, which is pretty impressive. The Packers have been looking for somebody. They might have found their guy. They've been looking for somebody to replace Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae Adams is probably wanting to come back to Green Bay right about now anyway. But that's a huge loss for the Green Bay Packers in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because now you're looking at the Packers, who were in the playoff picture, are now sitting 4-7, are not in the playoff picture. That's this is where it starts to. that drops the Packers all the way down to 11th. They're out of the playoff picture. And like I said, I know the Bucs are currently 4th, right? But they're 4th by a very, very small margin because the Falcons are right behind them. And they still play the Falcons again. Is there a chance that the Falcons kind of fall apart? Yeah, because the Falcons are surprising a lot of people, right? But when we're looking at an Atlanta Falcons team that's a surprising 4-6, sure, they're 1-3 in the division, but they're 3-4 in the conference, which is big. The saving grace for the Buccaneers right now is that they're 5-2 in the conference. And the NFC, it's kind of weak outside of the playoff bubble. Right? I know I just talked about the Atlanta Falcons kind of being a thorn in the Buccaneers side, and that part is going to remain true. But everybody else outside of that, you got the Cardinals at 4-6. Just mentioned the Packers at 4-7. The Lions 3-6, Rams 3-6, Panthers 3-7. All of these teams are so well under 500 that they don't really have any merit over, like, there's nothing to worry about at this present time for any of those teams. It's all about seeding at this point. Yeah, we expect the Bucs to probably win. Right? We expect the Buccaneers to most likely win the NFC South. They're sitting, 4 games behind? 3 games behind the Eagles and 3 games behind the Vikings. You have to expect kind of a monumental collapse if they want to take over 1 or 2 in the NFC. They do have the opportunity to take over from Seattle. Seattle's 6-4, and obviously the Bucs will hold the tiebreaker over them. But the Seahawks are obviously on a bye this week as well. So now we have to look at games that have playoff implications for the Buccaneers, should they happen to not win the NFC South. Because you could clearly very easily take over that 3rd position. But I don't think that we're looking at an Eagles or a Vikings collapse that helps Tampa at all. That's just kind of where I'm looking at. We also have to remember, if the Bucs don't happen to win the NFC South, you've got the Giants at 7-2 right now. You've got the Cowboys at 6-3 right now. And then you've got the 49ers 5-4 and the Commanders at 5-5. You've got all of these teams chomping at the bit and nipping at your heels the moment you happen to drop, because you're going to watch. Let's say everything plays out the way that these NFC teams want it to play out over these next 2 weeks. Right? Let's say the Buccaneers come back and they've got to struggle against Cleveland. Right? Let's say Nick Chubb comes back and has a day. 2-3 touchdowns for Nick Chubb. Deshaun Watson. Let's say that this happens. Right? There's something that there's something in me that just makes it a little nerve-wracking when I'm looking at the schedule for the Buccaneers, going, okay, sure, they played good against the Seahawks, right? But they've played 10 games so far, and they've only looked really good in 2 of them. We're still not out of the weeds, Bucs fans. We're still not out of the weeds. It's still a scary, scary commodity for the Buccaneers because there is still uncertainty. We can talk about the veteran leadership. We can talk about the experience of the team. The roster's basically the same from the Super Bowl run 2 years ago and the NFC Championship game last season. But there's just something that's not fully clicking with this team yet. We're seeing signs of them improving, right? They've won 2 straight now. We're seeing signs of an improvement, but we still need to continue to progress forward because the Bucs, as of right now, are not a Super Bowl contending team. They're on the come up. They're a playoff contention team. I think they're a perennial playoff team. I don't see any way that the Bucs missed the playoffs, right? But they're not a Super Bowl contending team. And while they're sitting in 4th because they are a division winner of the weakest division, with only a 500 record. I just mentioned you've got all of these teams right behind you that have better records than you right now. That's the scary part if you're the Bucs, is if the Falcons get it done over the next 2 weeks. Let's say the Falcons improve to 6-6. And let's just say that something happens to go wrong for the Bucs, because nothing's gone right for the team so far this season, right? Like that's the important part, right? They're in Cleveland on the 27th, and then they start December on Monday Night Football at home against the New Orleans Saints. I know that the Saints are crumbling. I know that the Saints don't look like they know what's going on. I know Tom Brady finally beat the regular season curse and defeated the New Orleans Saints in week 2 this season. But it is still a divisional matchup. It's still the New Orleans Saints, and it's still primetime. The New Orleans Saints in primetime have also been a thorn in Tom Brady's side since he's joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The saving grace is that the New Orleans Saints look really, really bad. But divisional matchups are always going to be tough. They're always tough. The Bucs in week 2 looked better than they looked in week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they only won by 10. Right? So it's not like they wiped the floor with the New Orleans Saints in week 2. This defense through 3 weeks was super dominant. Talked about that plenty of times. I talked about that this week. The defense through the first 3 weeks of this season was on pace to be one of the best recorded defenses of all time in NFL history. Akeem Hicks went down. Everything kind of just fell apart and went by the wayside, if you're asking me. So there are a lot of implications, right? There are. Talked about, look, Minnesota, Dallas, huge. You need Dallas to take that L. You need Dallas to fall to 6-4. You need Minnesota to I'm not worried about spots 1 and 2 in the NFC. And if you are, you shouldn't be. You should not be worried about taking over spots 1 or 2 as we're heading into the 11th week of the season, and there's 2 teams with only 1 loss, and we already have 5. You're hoping for a monumental collapse at that point. So you've got to play the numbers game. You've got to root for Minnesota to beat any of the teams around you. You've got to root for Philly to beat any of the teams around you. You've got to root for upsets. I said, we've got to go for Detroit over the Giants this week. You just have to. You need Detroit to beat the Giants. You need to solidify. You need that cushion. You need to add padding to that cushion in case something goes on brand for the Buccaneers this season. The Packers losing last night, absolutely great. We need a Chicago Bears upset over the Atlanta Falcons. Pad the cushion. Falcons are favored by 3.5 for our friends over at BetUS. Take the under, or take the underdog. Put a few bucks on the Bears to upset the Falcons. Why not? Bears play the Bears are a team on the come up anyway. The Bears are definitely a team on the come up. Baltimore should beat Carolina. That helps pad it. We need Houston to upset Washington. Washington's right on that bubble in the 8th seed. We need to you need to look at these. You need to look at what is going to help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the absolute best to keep their positioning strong. You don't want to roll in as number 8. Right? You don't want to be the lowest ranked wild card. And what Eli Manning has done it. But that's not the path that you want to take to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm getting at. Yes, we know Eli Manning and David Tyree, probably the most amazing catch in Super Bowl history with the helmet catch that defeated the Patriots when they were a wild card. The Patriots had the undefeated season. It's a great story. But I'm not trying to sit on eggshells as we progress through the playoffs, guys. I'm not. I'm trying to look at these matchups and go, okay, so how is this going to work? Okay, yeah. So this is what we're looking at. 4, we're going to play the 5. We struggle right now against the run. The playoffs start now. Who are we playing? New York Giants. No, thank you. We can count on Daniel Jones to make some boneheaded plays, but if we can't stop the run, who leads the NFL in running, in rushing yards right now? That would be Saquon Barkley. Until the Buccaneers have proven to me that they once again know how to stop the run, I don't want to play Saquon Barkley. Now on the flip side, what do the Lions struggle at? Stopping the run. And who leads the NFL? Saquon Barkley. Kind of a tough ask for the Lions, but who would have thought that the Detroit Lions were going to pick off Aaron Rodgers twice in the red zone for the first time that might have been the first time ever Aaron Rodgers has been picked off twice in the red zone in a game. And both in the goal line too. Like that's just not a good look for Aaron Rodgers. But there's other Monday Night Football. Cardinals and Niners. This is a tough one. But you have to go for the Cardinals in this one. It's tough because the Cardinals are 4-6. They're right behind. They're sitting in 10th. But like I said, this is where it gets a little interesting because now you've got multiple teams that are at least 2 games under 500, which is very problematic for movement. It's not easy to overcome all of this. Like right now, it's a very wide margin. If you look at the AFC is all the way up through. I guess the AFC is kind of everybody. What through 9 is over 500, and then you've got the Colts 4-5-1, just under 500, obviously because of the tie, and then everybody else is 3 games or more under 500 in the AFC. The NFC is not necessarily that it's, and especially because we have question marks. That's where all of this drives from, is we've got so many question marks about, is this team actually turning it around? Or did they catch the Seahawks at the right time? Right, they beat the Rams, but the Rams are 3-6. Everybody's beating the Rams this season. Cooper Kupp is now out for 4 weeks. Cooper Kupp's done. The Rams season's over. Like, write it off. The Rams season is over. We always talk about the Rams and how they built their team for a win now mode by mortgaging all of their draft picks. It's great in theory. But when the wheels fall off, look at the team now. 3-6, no wide receiver. Sure, they got Allen Robinson. They've got Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee at tight end. Cam Akers seems to have patched up his relationship with Sean McVay and the organization as a whole. But they've got no first-round draft pick. They've got no second-round draft pick. They sent those away. They sent their first-round draft pick for last season and the upcoming season to Detroit for Matthew Stafford. They've mortgaged their entire future. This is almost kind of like how the Detroit Red Wings kept mortgaging their future with draft picks. They made the playoffs for like 31 straight years. I don't know if there's ever going to be another team that does anything like that. But they kept mortgaging it just to make just to keep that streak alive, just to make the playoffs. And then they crumbled for like a decade. They were the worst team in the NHL for damn near a decade. It's kind of what we're seeing. I feel like that's what we're going to see with the Los Angeles Rams here in the very near future, unless they start moving some of those players. You know, I had a couple of people tell me yesterday. Again, it's such a weird dynamic with the Devin White situation. They're like, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed to be a Buccaneers fan. Everybody wanted Devin White out of here now. Now he's the NFC Player of the Week or Defensive Player of the Week." Like, yeah. And what, Defensive Player of the Week? That's great. You know, overcoming the adversity of losing his father just a couple days before the game. overcoming the adversity of playing poorly for the last couple of weeks and channeling all of that. I'm glad he had a good game. But what we're not realizing is that he's a captain of the team, and when you've got a piss poor attitude and you refuse to talk to reporters because somebody called you out for walking on a play and saying, "Well, I was tired," then sub yourself out. You're the captain. You're the captain of that defense. If Warren Sapp says that you should have been out of the game, if Warren Sapp, who's a Hall of Famer, who's arguably the greatest defender in Buccaneers history, says that if he was your teammate, he'd ask for your C patch off, you wear that on your sleeve, dude. You don't shell up, right? You don't cry about it. You don't tell us reporters in the locker room after practice when we ask for an interview and say, "I'm good." You don't do that. Devin White's not good enough of a player to be able to do that. No player should be doing that, if we're being totally honest. No player should be doing that. But Devin White is not a good enough player to get away with doing that. He's an above average linebacker. He's top 5 in missed tackles. I don't care if he leads the Bucs in tackles. He's a linebacker. 13 out of 15 of the top 15 tacklers in the NFL this season are linebackers. It's like that every single season, and it's not ever going to change because that's how the game is played. So don't come to me and tell me that, "Oh, Devin White's a great player because he leads the team in tackles." He should be leading the team in tackles. He's like 30 years younger than Levante David, and he's a linebacker. He should be leading the team in tackles. That's like you coming up to me and saying, "You know what? Ryan Suckup leads the team in field goals." Ryan Suckup, he's doing, that's his job. His job is to kick field goals. He should be leading the team in field goals. Devin White should be leading the team in tackles. Don't tell me that this is some great accomplishment for our middle linebacker to be leading the team in tackles, because that's what he should be doing. That's how you earn that paycheck. So when he plays poorly and you're a captain, you've got a target on your back. When fans are going, "Yeah, get him out of here. Get him out of here." What's wrong? Why is that embarrassing? Why is it embarrassing when you're on a 2-game losing streak, when you've looked like garbage for the vast majority of the season, and then your captain, after a 6-point win over a rebuilding Atlanta Falcons franchise, literally and verbatim says, "It gets boring on defense after you've imposed your will on somebody for 4 quarters." Bro, you beat them by 6 points. You beat a team with Marcus Mariota as their starting quarterback, with no Cordero Patterson at running back, with no Kyle Pitts at tight end. What will did you impose on that team? You let them run for $150. You let Marcus Mariota put up 60 yards on the ground. What will could you have possibly enforced on the Atlanta Falcons for you to come out after that game and say that you got bored playing on defense? I don't care if it's a blowout. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear from my captain that he's bored out there playing. I don't care if it's a 45-point blowout. That rubs me the wrong way. And it should rub you the wrong way. And it's rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way. I said before the trade deadline, I'm okay if they move Devin White. They needed to shake something up. Obviously, they didn't do anything. I'm fine with them trading I was fine with them with the possibility. If Tom Brady did not restructure that contract and get a no trade clause inserted into that contract, I would have been A-okay had they traded Tom Brady away. The end is coming, man. The light is at the end of the tunnel, and the light at the end of the tunnel is not nice. It's a freaking train that's going to run you over, because now you've got Ryan Griffin and Kyle Trask on your roster as quarterback. And Doesn't matter if we've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and a good defense. It really doesn't matter. This is not a Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson kind of situation, right? These guys are certified scrubs at quarterback. The only reason why so many of you like Kyle Trask is because he went to Florida. And there's parallels between Bucs fans and Gators fans because it's right there. And USF is not good. That's the only reason why you want to give Kyle Trask a chance. If he went to another school, right? Let's say he went to USC. You wouldn't care about the third string quarterback on this team. But because we can't take the fan hat off and go, oh my God, we got our guy. We got our quarterback from Florida. Now he's here in Tampa. That doesn't make him a good quarterback all of a sudden. He couldn't beat out Blaine Gabbert, who looked like crap in the preseason. He's still the third string quarterback. I've never seen a team, literally never in my life. I've been covering the NFL for over 10 years. I've been a fan for nearly 30 years. As long as I can remember. And I've never seen a team so infatuated with a third string quarterback. It's so weird. But this is why I would have been okay with them moving on from Tom Brady, because I want the future to start. Like, I wanted to start building towards the future. That's why I was okay with them signing Baker Mayfield, trying to make a trade when Baker Mayfield's trade value was in the absolute toilet because Cleveland botched his value. I would have been okay if the Bucs offered a couple of draft picks or a player and a draft pick or something. Even with Baker on an expiring contract, get him into the system. See what you've got with him, because even at his worst, he's still better than what we've got in the future. The future right now is nothing more than a blank space. Aaron Rodgers retires, they got Jordan Love. They know where they're going. This is not a Buccaneers team that's in a rebuilding situation. Jared Goff leaves the Detroit Lions after this season because he's a free agent. Guess what? Doesn't really matter because the Lions are still rebuilding. They haven't found their franchise quarterback. The Buccaneers have veteran players already under contract. Is it an enticing situation for a quarterback to come into? Absolutely, it's enticing. But I'm telling you, I don't like the vibe that we're getting from the Buccaneers of not looking ahead. That's the thing. That to me, that's the annoyance for me, is not wanting to look ahead. Had they traded for Baker Mayfield, what does that do to Tom Brady? Tom Brady's not getting benched for Baker Mayfield. Doesn't matter how bad Tom Brady's playing. Tom Brady's not going to get benched for anyone. Do the Bucs go after Dak Prescott next year? I'd be okay with Dak Prescott here. I like Dak. I think he's a solid quarterback, and you surround him with the talent that we've got. You think Jimmy G is a serviceable quarterback in San Francisco because he's got a couple of good pieces around him in offense? Look at what we have here in Tampa. Any quarterback that is a current starting quarterback in the NFL can thrive in Tampa Bay. Now, I know somebody's going to sit here and tell me, well, Kyle Trask, he could thrive in Tampa Bay. He's got the same roster. And look, he looks bad in training camp against his own teammates that he plays against every day. He looks bad in practice. He looks like he's not grasping it. And there's nothing wrong with drafting a player in the second round and him not panning out. It's not the NBA where it's basically a 2-round draft and it's over, right? It's not the NBA. There's 7 rounds in the NFL. Some guys are found in the 6th round. Some guys pan out from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. Some guys pan out and some guys don't. The problem with Kyle Trask is he's just not looked good. He had one flash in the first preseason game this season, and then he went back to his old ways. He's not improved. There's too many uncertainties for this Buccaneers team in the future. There's too many uncertainties with this Buccaneers team right now. And we've got everything in place right now. That should be some sort of a wake-up call for this fan base. You lose 2 straight games and you've got people going, yeah, we're okay. Yeah, we're fine. No, you're not fine. You lost to the Steelers. You lost to the Panthers. You lost to the Ravens. Like, the Ravens are a good team, but you see what I'm saying. You lost to the Steelers. You shouldn't have lost to the Steelers. You lost to the Panthers. You shouldn't have lost to the Panthers. You barely beat the Falcons. And for an entire stretch of games, for 4 straight games, oh, this is the one. This is the one. This is where they get right. They're gonna get right. They didn't get right over the Falcons. Definitely didn't get right over the Steelers. Didn't get right over the Panthers. Didn't get right with the Ravens. Didn't really get right against the Rams either. They won by 3 points against a struggling Los Angeles Rams team. Arguably, the only way they win that game against the Rams is because Tom Brady took over in the fourth quarter and did what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady called his own plays. Like, that's out there on tape. That Tom Brady told Byron Leftwich, I'm going to call the plays. I'm going to run the offense. We're going to march down the field. That's the only reason that team won. They were going to lose to the Rams. And we talk about how well they played against the Seahawks. It was a 21-16 win. I mean, it's not like they blew out the Seahawks either. The Seahawks are surprising a lot of us. Pretty much the entire NFL world is surprised by how well the Seahawks are playing. I get it. But it's not like they came out and destroyed the Seattle Seahawks. We can talk about the stat sheet all we want. 5-point win, nothing to really, it's not really anything to write home about. So there's a lot of question marks. This is why we need to start our rooting guide now for this Buccaneers team, because it's not certain that they're going to win the NFC South. You've got the Browns, Saints, Niners, Bengals, Cardinals, Panthers, and Falcons. It's a little odd. Falcons, they'll probably, if the Falcons have Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts, and the Buccaneers are playing the way that the way that they played against the Seahawks, it's going to be a tough day. Kyler Murray should have Zach Ertz available on Christmas Day. Obviously, you'll have DeAndre Hopkins. AJ Green is still there. Rondell Moore is still there. It's going to be a tough day. The Bengals will have Jamar Chase back. It's going to be tough. The Bengals offense is one of the most explosive offenses in the league. It's going to be tough. The 49ers, you can never discredit Kyle Shanahan. I don't care if they've got Jimmy Garoppolo at their quarterback. He's been to a Super Bowl and he's been to an NFC Championship game. Hating on Jimmy Garoppolo is just a social media narrative at this point. He's serviceable enough to get you to where you need to go. 49ers have the second best defense in the NFL. We struggle to score points on offense still, right? Like, that's going to be tough. Just talked about the Saints earlier at the beginning of the show. That's going to be tough. It's a divisional game. I don't care how poorly the Saints are playing. Divisional games are always difficult. And then you've got Cleveland. probably be able to beat Cleveland. Realistically, that's the only 100% game that you can be certain. That's the only game you can be certain. So it's going to be a bumpy road. And like I said, in a perfect world, they come out, they finish 12-5. They go on a streak. Here we go. We're going through the quad. We're streaking with Will Ferrell. That's great. But that's in a perfect world. That's where it's all right, guys. Like we gotta reel it in a little bit here. Like there's a difference between being being excited and being being realistic. There's a difference there. I don't know. And also for those who are not aware, if you go to BetUS and you look at the over under for the Buccaneers wins, it's 9.5 games now. They've got a difficult remaining schedule. It's 9.5 games. That's their over under. They went from 13 in the over under to 9.5. Huge difference. You could see a 9-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team making the playoffs. That's why seeding matters, right? That's why it matters. Just it does. The Bolts won their third straight game. 4-win victory over the Calgary Flames last night. You know what's nice is 6 of 8 games so far. Through the month of November, they've gotten at least 1 point in. 6 of 8. I mean, that's not bad. The problem is, the Boston Bruins just aren't slowing down. They're 15-2 on the season. They don't even have an overtime loss. They're 10-0 at home. We thought the Lightning were hard to beat at home. 10-0 at home. Plus 33 point differential. They're just blowing teams out of the water. They're on a 5-game winning streak right now. I mean, I'm totally cool with our 3-game winning streak. You look at Andre Palat and the New Jersey Devils, 11-game winning streak right now over in the Metropolitan Division. But what we're starting to see from this Lightning team is good. This is what entices me about the Lightning team is like, we knew that they were going to be good. We knew that they would figure it out. We know that John Cooper is arguably the greatest mind in hockey. We know that. There are certain things that we do need to clean up though. Power play. The Lightning are always a fantastic team on the power play. But it's kind of fallen apart a little bit. They're back up into the top 10, which is great. They're at a 23.5% power play. They're a 79.7% penalty kill. Penalty kill is better than the power play. I'll tell you that much. But wouldn't it be nice to be like in that mid 80 range where the Islanders and Jets are? That would be nice. 79.7 is not bad, right? It's not bad at all. I mean, hell, even look, the Sharks are at 92% penalty kill. 92%? It's unheard of 19 games into the season. Their penalty kill is just stupidly good. It really is. The thing that's nice about what the Lightning are doing right now is that they're not doing anything great. They're just doing everything really, really good. And that to me that's the best part about what's going on with the Lightning is that they're all kind of flying under the radar. Right? I talked about this earlier in the week is that you look and we've got Cooch. We've got Cooch leading the team in points, but he's tied for 6th. Right? Like he's not even in the top 5. So you're not looking at, okay, yeah, here's Cooch. Right? He was in the top 3 at one point, but he's kind of retracted a little bit. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with flying under the radar. Especially early on in the season. I'm fine with doing that. Cirelli's not back yet. We've got a couple guys out, but they're overcoming adversity already. They're seeing a lot of different things. The clock was stopped way too long last night to take away that Calgary Flames goal. It's all about momentum driven, right? That's realistically that's where the Lightning thrive. Is that they're not necessarily a momentum driven team. They're pretty even keel all across the board, and it reflects like you don't see any guys when we go into the locker room after games, and we go to the press conference room after games, whether it's John Cooper, whether it's Steven Stamkos, Patty Maroon, Andrei Vasilevsky, everybody is just chill. There's nobody that's up. There's nobody that's down. Yeah, against the Oilers, I saw Steven Stamkos chuck the paper across the locker room. That was like the most emotion I've ever seen out of anybody in that locker room, in a negative manner. That's it. I've never seen anything else other than chucking. Like I've seen players arguing in football locker rooms, basketball locker rooms, never in a hockey locker room, at least in the Lightning anyway. I've never seen it. And that's a testament to John Cooper keeping this team level, keeping them very even keel. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just stay exactly where you need to be. And that's and it says a lot. The Lightning have climbed back up. They're in a 3-way tie for 5th place in terms of Stanley Cup odds. I'll take it, plus 1,400. I'm fine. I'm fine not being a favorite for the Stanley Cup. Right? Like at some point you feel like the Lightning got to kind of retract that a little bit, right? Like you can't be 1-2 favorite every single season going in for what they were second favorite last year. They were first favorite the year before. They were second favorite the year before that. They were third before that. Like you can't expect this team, no matter how good they are, right? Other teams have to improve. Other teams are improving around the league too. It's not just that the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing things. I don't think. But I'm okay. They're in a 3-way tie with the Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. You worried about the Florida Panthers? I'm not. I'm not worried about the Florida Panthers. You shouldn't be worried about the Florida Panthers either. Just moving along. Moving along. Lightning are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to get into the playoffs. They're going to make a deep run. And they're going to look good doing it as well. Like that's how it works. If you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Magic. I'm going to wrap the show up with a little Orlando Magic talk. The Orlando Magic are on the road in Chicago tonight. 3-game losing streak for the Chicago Bulls. 2-game losing streak for the Orlando Magic. I told you guys it wasn't going to be pretty against the Timberwolves. I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. I told you it was not going to be pretty against the Minnesota Timberwolves. When you've got your top 2 big men out, and they've got the monstrosity duo of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, it's going to be a difficult ask. A very, very difficult ask to beat that team. It's going to be. Bulls are favored by 9 points tonight. We haven't heard any information if Paolo Banchero will play. I'm still confused because he was full practice on last Saturday. It's been almost a week since he was full practice. Maybe he tweaked it a little, and they're kind of playing the long game with him. Maybe that's what they're doing, right? Hey, it's early in the season. You were on a tear, and we don't want to risk any long-term injury. So we'll kind of we'll pull it back a little bit, and we'll keep it safe. But the Magic have a laundry list of injuries, man. Wendell Carter Jr., questionable to play tonight. Cole Anthony, questionable to play. Markelle Fultz still has a broken toe. That MRI should be coming soon to where he gets cleared and then he can actually start contact again. So we're looking forward to that. I want to see what this Magic team looks like complete. Even if it's just like a 5-game stretch where they're fully complete and fully healthy. I just want to see what this team looks like. I want to see what the rotations are built, right? Like, I've got my own thoughts on how I feel that the rotations are going to look, but I'm not Jamal Mosley. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. He might not even know exactly what he's going to do. Or maybe he's having dreams about it, right? Maybe he's going into bed every single night and he's having dreams about what his rotations would look like once this team is fully healthy. You know, in hindsight, I'm happy that the Magic were able to battle back from being down 27 to the Timberwolves. And here's the thing about the matchup with the Bulls is the Bulls aren't big like the Timberwolves are. Right? Obviously, you're going to have a huge knock if Banchero and Dell are out. Even if one of them is out, you're going to there's a huge hole in your team. But it's easier to overcome when you're against a smaller team like the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White's out. You know, we know Vucevic is averaging almost 12 rebounds a game. Right? But we're looking at a smaller lineup for this team. Bol is stepping up big. Bol is stepping up really big, guys. And I'm very proud. I'm very proud of how Bol has stepped up so far. But we just got too many guys hurt. Too many guys are injured. You know, the Bulls lost a close one against the Pelicans at the beginning of November. We're looking at it's kind of a toss-up when I'm looking at it. Like, I feel like the Bulls are definitely a beatable team, right? The Bulls are 6-9. They're 4-4 at home. The Magic haven't won on the road yet. Will the Magic get their first road win tonight? It's very feasible. Right? The way that this Bulls team is, you slow down DeMar DeRozan, and you're kind of going to be okay. You're not really going to look at anybody else that's crazy. And the Bulls don't stand out in any particular category. That's the thing that's good about the Bulls, right? We know the Magic are still one of the top shooting teams in terms of field goal percentage in the league. We know that the Magic are a top 4 team in the NBA in terms of rebounding. It's going to be hard to do if you don't got the two big guys, but they're still holding it down in the top 4. We know they can score a lot of points. We know that they've got a big lineup. Bol can get a lot of blocks. Bamba can get a lot of blocks. And they're kind of keeping their points. They're kind of keeping these games close, and they're competitive. But the Bulls also are a younger team as well. Was DeRozan the oldest player on the team? And what, he's the ripe age of what, 30, 33 years older? We're looking at it. We're looking at a matchup to where this definitely helps, right? Because the next team up the ladder for the Orlando Magic is the Chicago Bulls. Right, they're still 2 games back, but you get that W over the Bulls. Maybe you start doing something. You know, the East is pretty damn weak. If we're being honest here, the East is pretty damn weak. Outside of the Celtics and the Bucs, we're talking about the Hawks 3 games above 500, Cavs 2, the Raptors 2, the Pacers in 6th seed are 1 game above 500. The Wizards and Knicks 1 game above, 8-7 each. Then you've got Philly and Miami are 7-8, 7-7. It's not egregious to think that all you got to do is just get on a little streak. That's all you got to do. But the team's got to get healthy. It's going to be such a difficult ask to get this team going on any sort of streak. Right? They got the next 3 on the road. All winnable games, the next 3. Chicago tonight, Saturday and Monday against the Pacers in Indianapolis. 2 home games against Philly, and then on the road against Brooklyn. all of these games are fairly winnable games. Brooklyn's still trying to figure it out. James Harden's out. Philly's trying to figure it out now. Right? Like that's the issue for Philly. And hell, even when Harden was there, they were struggling. They were putting up good numbers, he and Embiid, but they were still struggling. These are all winnable games. I'm not looking at any game up until possibly December 2nd against Cleveland, in Cleveland, as a non-winnable, as like a super difficult game. Chicago, Indiana, Philly, Brooklyn, Atlanta, all of those are winnable games. They're not powerhouse, we're going to run away with it teams. And that's the weird part. How many times have we talked about this? The Magic have only won 4 games right now, but who have they won those 4 games against? Outside of Charlotte, you've got to win against Golden State. You've got to win against the Dallas Mavericks. You've got to win against the Phoenix Suns. Defending champs, 2 playoff teams. Those are 3 of your 4 wins. 75% of your wins came against solid teams. If you're looking at that schedule, you look at the beginning set of the schedule for the Orlando Magic. You're not circling the Golden State game as a W. You're not circling the Dallas Mavericks as a W. You're not circling the Phoenix Suns as a W. Sure, they lost a heartbreaker to Sacramento, but you're not expecting them to lose to the Rockets, right? You're not expecting them to lose to the Knicks. You're not expecting them to lose to the Pistons either. I always draw parallels between the Pistons and the Magic in terms of the rebuild. I've been very vocal about that. I feel like the Pistons are just a tad bit ahead of where the Magic are in terms of the rebuild. They haven't put it together yet, but in terms of the physical rebuild, I feel like the Pistons are just a little bit ahead because they started about a season ahead of the Magic. I know the Magic's been rebuilding for 10 years now, but the difference is they were kind of just floating around. They weren't really rebuilding. They've just been bad for a decade. They weren't necessarily rebuilding. So we'll see what happens tonight on the road in Chicago, the Windy City. Obviously, stay tuned to Channelside Sports. We'll keep you tuned in on all of the injury updates heading into the game tonight. We got the tip-off is at 8 p.m. Make sure you tune in on Bally Sports. Vince Carter's coming soon, too, which is pretty cool. I'm excited about that, hearing Vince Carter analyze Magic games. Obviously, he's basically from here. Daytona Beach guy. Obviously played here. But we don't want to talk about that because that was the start of the downfall. Not him particularly, but he was part of that roster. That started the downfall. That's going to do it for us on this Fired Up Friday edition of Channelside in the Morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. I am Danny. You guys keep it locked in. Keep it tuned in to Channelside Sports all weekend. Search for us on all the social media platforms. We're going to do it all over again